Packer fans. You're listening to Packers Blitz with my co-host Andy, the podcast done by two diehard Packer fans who survived Packer football of the 80s and live to talk about it. This podcast is dedicated to the greatest fans in the world, Packer fans. Andy, you want to talk a little bit about your Thanksgiving and get a shout out to the fans here?
Sure. So, hello, happy holidays to Packer fans out there. Welcome to Packers Blitz. And a special shout out to my brother Jonathan, who's celebrating his birthday today as we are recording this on Monday. So, happy birthday, Jonathan. And so, how's it going, John, my Packer brother?
Well, let's just get Thanksgiving out of the way here too. I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving. Mine went really well. Got to see the fam, got to eat a lot, watch a lot of football. Had some fun. How about you, Andy?
Yeah, Thanksgiving was pretty awesome, buddy. And so my wife and I hosted our gathering. There were 15 of us, and my niece and nephew, Gabe and Lily, got to eat a lot of ham and mashed potatoes.
Nice.
And so I kind of followed their lead, and I'm a big fan of ham, big fan of mashed potatoes, and it was great. So I'm glad yours went really well too. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
Watching
Sounds
football
great.
games is pretty cool.
Yeah, so watch the
3 of them.
football games. So let's talk about the first game, Bills-Lions. Hey, a Lions game that doesn't stink? Are we crazy? So why don't you talk a little bit about the Bills win there, Andy?
Yeah, Bills won 28-25. So we're talking about a couple of games that affected some of the NFC North teams. It was surprisingly competitive. Detroit still found a way to lose after 3 straight wins. And there was a game-winning field goal at the end of the game by Tyler Bass for Buffalo. And, of course, he's on my fantasy team, so shout out to Tyler Bass. So the Lions are now 4-7 and still rank above the Packers in the NFC North.
Unbelievable.
Yes, that's the same Lions that started the season 1-6. They are now 4-7. So if they would have got a win against the Bills, they would have been, of course, 5-6, and would have been right in the thick of the playoff hunt. And of course,
what a joke.
Right. Yep. And then the Bills are now 8-3, and I did want to say a shout out to my Aunt Laura and Uncle Philip. I know this is almost like a family Packers Blitz today, but they're huge Bills fans, and they had weathered the recent snowfall and snowstorm in Buffalo, where the snowfall, actually, I'm not a weather forecaster, but they had 81.2 inches to be exact of snow. So they got rewarded with a couple of wins in the last few weeks by Buffalo. Yeah. And then the second game that I'd like to talk about, and if you want to talk about the other game with
Patriots and Vikings, let's talk about that really quick.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a 33-26 Vikings victory, which we don't like to say, and Packer fans probably don't want to hear. So it was close the entire way. The Vikings secondary still stinks. Mac Jones threw for 382 passing yards and 2 TDs. That's Mac Jones, by the way, against the Vikings. So they stink, especially in the South. Yes, they do. And I did want to mention, the game before where they lost 40-3 to Dallas at home. So where they absolutely stunk. It's always nice to say that. So Jen, I have this sweatshirt. You've probably seen it that reads on the front, my favorite 2 teams are the Packers and whoever is playing the Vikings. So nice. John, enough of the Minnesota talk and the Vikings talk, and let's talk about our favorite football team.
Yes, the Packers. So there wasn't a lot of Packers news. We signed some guy that got kicked off the Rams. Doesn't really matter. He's not gonna be the savior for us. But here we go again, Andy. The media always wants that extra bump, in ratings. So guess what? They want to trade Aaron Rodgers again. And what have I said a million times is we trade Aaron Rodgers. Is first of all, that's ridiculous. We can't, the money situation. And, I hear Raiders fans are saying, let's trade Aaron Rodgers for Derek Carr. So I'm like, yeah, let's do that. And then I want 3 first round picks, and I want Max Crosby, and I want Darren Waller. And then, you know what? Why don't you throw in a couple third round picks? So again, they're even bringing up us trading to the Broncos for Russell Wilson, and, of course, the Patriots. And I just, one of the things, Andy, and I'll have you comment on this too. Do you really believe that Rodgers, who's in the twilight of his career, wants to play with Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Wilson, Herbert in the AFC to get to a Super Bowl? I mean, if it does happen and we get a boatload of picks, not even Gutekunst can screw this up. But it's not going to happen. People, calm down. I mean, I get it. We should have traded him last year, all this stuff. But you know what? He's a great player, and he still is a great player. And we'll talk a little bit about the game, and how tough he is. And Andy has some really good points about that. So, Andy, anything to kind of bring up about this trade talk, trade Rodgers again?
Yeah, pretty silly, isn't it? One of the top players in the league, two-time, actually three-time MVP?
Four-time.
Four-time.
Yeah.
He won the last couple of years. So,
Yeah.
when you have a real franchise quarterback like that, and you're one of the top quarterbacks,
yeah,
you're going to be doing that. So,
and not to mention, he's a tough SOB. So, talk about your biggest news today, which you learned about Aaron Rodgers, what happened last night, and why he went out of the game. So, kind of update people on the health of Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, pretty much going to read this verbatim, but
yeah, go ahead.
Aaron Rodgers injured his rib cage. He was hit multiple times during last night's game. Aaron noted that he was worried about a punctured lung. So Ian Rappaport from the NFL Network reported that A-Rod will undergo a MRI and a CT scan today. So in other words, the team is still trying to determine if he suffered multiple fractures to his ribs to help determine his injury prognosis moving forward. And so he's listed as questionable on the Packers official injury report as of now. And he was definitely having trouble rotating and torquing to throw, as a lot of you could see.
Yeah,
he's
you grimacing,
noticeably in pain, pretty much on every single throw. So he left the game in the third quarter, went to the locker room, and did not return. And as everybody knows, probably, Rodgers is dealing with a painful right thumb injury, which actually they have determined is a fracture because that's what A-Rod said it was.
Yeah.
And so he not only has a thumb fracture, he may have some ribs that are now fractured. And so in the postseason, that's going to come up sooner than we'd like it to. He might even have to have surgery on the thumb. So just another thing that's happening to us. But yeah, he's a modern day gladiator, isn't he? He's playing through the pain.
Yeah, absolutely. And Favre, we always would say that about Favre, right? Oh, Favre's got a busted foot. He's got a busted shoulder. He's got a busted thumb. He's got it was every week there was something with Favre, right? And everyone just went, oh my God, how does he play through that? Hey, Aaron Rodgers played through some really tough stuff too. So let's not give Favre all the credit. Let's give, my boy Aaron Rodgers a little credit. So.
Yeah, Rodgers is our guy, John. He's the guy. He's the Packers GOAT. And we need him. And if we're gonna get to another Super Bowl anytime soon, in the next few years, we're gonna need him to be on the team and playing his best. So he is one of the top quarterbacks out there, as you know, probably one of the top 5 to 8 quarterbacks, and I can list them off and go through those if you want. But no, we don't need to be trading him to Denver or to Las Vegas or to San Francisco, by the way. I've heard that one too, because of Rodgers' ties to Cal, and A-Rod wants to get back to the Bay Area, and he was a big 49ers fan growing up. But they also didn't draft him number one either, so
correct. They had a chance.
So they had their chance. They had their chance. Now we have Aaron. He's our guy.
He's our guy. So let's get right into the game. And I was saying a lot of this last night.
Oh, come on!
What is Joe Barry doing? Like, does he watch game film? Andy texted me that. Andy, we were watching the game separate, but Andy kept texting me, what's the plan? Like, he would say, like, did we watch game film? Like, did we have a plan? And so Andy's more into stats, and he'll give us the stats, which are a little, the word I want to use today is depressing. I've used humiliating, embarrassing. Now I'm using depressing because we were in this game, okay? Even after all the things, I think the first half, and I'm pretty sure about this, that Jalen Hurts had 9 rushes for like 107 yards. And it was just, I just watched this game and I just went, we're still in this game after all this stuff. The offensive line of the Eagles they should be like, I don't know, in a zoo, like beating up gorillas or something, because those guys were just mauling us. And it was just, after a while, I was just like, hey, I get it. They're a better team. But we stuck with them. And just, I want to do a quick thing too, Andy, before I get to you. Okay, Jordan Love came in. Yeah, he looked pretty good. That's because Philadelphia was like, oh, well, let's just play this vanilla defense because we're going to win anyway. But Jordan Love, yes, he looked good. And yes, if Aaron Rodgers is hurt, Jordan Love should start. If Aaron Rodgers can play, let him play, because like I said in earlier podcasts, the moment we bench Rodgers, it's over. He's not coming back because he's just going to be like, okay, fine. You moved on. I'm fine with that. You're fine with that. Let's just keep going. So, Andy, get your thoughts on it. You're pretty similar to mine, but
yeah, you noticed that, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yeah, 15 missed tackles according to Matt Lafluer. Some of those were charted out, and that's what he mentioned to the media just today. And so, and you had mentioned 107 yards for Jalen Hurts. It was actually 157 yards for Jalen Hurts.
In the first half?
Just in the total game.
Oh,
I think in the first quarter, he had 100 yards.
Yeah, he had over.
Yeah, it wasn't even the first half, John. So yeah, it could have been even worse. And then Sanders, the running back, Miles Sanders, I believe his name is, had 143 yards. So the total between the two of them was 300 yards. And then they had 363 total rushing yards, which almost set an all-time record for that franchise, which was set, I think, in 1948.
Yeah, 1948.
So, right. Exactly. Yeah, pretty ridiculous. It's like, yeah, so can somebody tackle, please? Yeah. And I could go into, being all the things that you talked about, out hustled, standing around, not gain poor angles, not wrapping up, poor form, all this kind of stuff, and be negative. But that's basically what was happening if anybody was watching. So, tough thing to watch. It's like, it's like I didn't know whether we were playing flag football or whether we were playing, tackle football, because a lot of the guys were just not rushed coming to the ball carrier. It was not gang tackling.
Really quick though. We were still in that game, right?
Right. Yeah.
We were still in that game. That blows me away. So anyway, go on.
Yeah. So an interesting fact: Randall Cobb had as many tackles as Kenny Clark. So I think it was on the first interception from Rodgers. Randall did a solo tackle on one of the defensive backs or whoever it was.
Well,
So,
Randall, you're on defense, buddy.
So yes, Kenny Clark, I am calling you out. He's supposed to be one of the leaders on defense and had one tackle the entire game. And they were running the ball. You would have thought he should have maybe had more than that, but he does get double teamed a lot. And Lowry doesn't help next to him. I'll give this is probably things that Packer fans are probably thinking as I'm saying this, but we need him to be better. So basically we got manhandled.
Had an off year. Yeah, he's had an off year.
Yep.
He's not had a good year.
Yep. So I mean, I would like us to be a little bit more like our NFC rival, the 49ers, to mention them. They haven't given up any points in the second half in the last 4 games and didn't give up any to New Orleans yesterday. So, but when you watch one of their games, which I have watched several because they're on TV a lot, you will see 6 to 7 defenders around the ball carrier all the time trying to make a play.
Yep.
And so it's very disconcerting when you don't see that kind of effort. And so why can't we play that way? Aggressive, fast, disciplined, tough. So, but on a positive note, I do have some positives.
Let's get some positives in here.
Okay, so Rudy Ford led us in tackles.
Rudy.
And so he had 9 tackles and that forced fumble where they were, I think it was 4th and 1 or something. He came up and smacked the guy. I think he took the ball right out, just ripped it out of there. I think that was against Brown.
Yes,
correct?
It was.
Yeah.
That is correct,
who is a beast in his own right. Great player. Yeah. So again, Rudy making plays again.
Rudy.
Unbelievable. And then it was Justin Hollins you were talking about before.
Thank you, Justin Hollins.
Yeah, he's the outside linebacker. He actually had a sack and 2 solo tackles, tackles for loss. So what a concept.
Whoa.
You tackle a ball carrier while he's still in the backfield. So he made some plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage and not on our side. So shout out to him. He didn't play the entire game. They just signed him. But he made a couple plays. So thank you, Justin.
Yes.
Keyshawn Nixon averaged 34.4 yards per kick return, which is awesome. So I think
I want to give that guy a kiss.
Exactly.
Because he looked really good. And a special teams player that doesn't fall down or run out of bounds or fumble.
Yep.
Whoa.
Very decisive where he was going, what lane he was choosing, and then he would hit it. And so he gave us some really, really good field position that we didn't always utilize, but he was definitely, it was nice to see that on special teams.
Yes.
We don't always get that, as you know. So, and then our rookie wide receiver, Christian Watson, had 4 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown again. So he's just been I think the last 3 games, what he's had 6 touchdowns, last 3 games.
3 games.
So I think, so he's doing great. So it's awesome to see that he's staying healthy, which is great. Yes. And then you already talked about Jordan Love, came in. I've been critical of him in previous Packers Blitz podcasts a little bit, but he did look very good. He came in with about 11 minutes to play in the 4th quarter. I believe he was 6 of 9 for 113 yards and a touchdown. Could have been better. Aaron Jones wide open on an out pattern along the sideline. Just beautiful pass right to him, hit him right in the gut.
Come on!
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So otherwise, I mean, it would have been even better. So, but it unfortunately didn't make the catch. But he did really, really well. So that was my positives for the game.
Yes,
so,
and
to keep it somewhat short. We did score 33 points, John. So I mean, the problem is we gave up 40. So.
And that is, folks, mind-blowing because we've been averaging what, Andy, 18 or 20 points a game?
It was like 18.5, something like that. Yep. Yeah.
And so
not typical for this team.
Yes. And I think, one thing that I keep hearing is, and this is our topic for the week, is Lafleur and Rodgers on the same page. So I saw this and it kind of made me think. But before I get to that, one thing I just wanted to ask, I had a listener of our podcast wanted me to ask you a question. He asked me first, are you more disappointed in the offense or the defense? I said defense because they look so good, and we had with all the guys coming back, and Rasul Douglas and Jair Alexander, and Adrian Amos playing better, and Darnell Savages hopefully had a better year, and just the secondary has been a joke. The linebacking core, we had Devondre Campbell. We thought, if he can just have a year like he had last year, that would be great. And then we got some two studs on defense from a national winning Georgia team, and man, that defense looks solid. So that was from one of our listeners. I say defense. Andy, what do you say?
I had a feeling you were going to ask me that question because I went back into our text chain, and you had mentioned that might be a question for a future show or whatnot. So I actually was thinking about that about half an hour ago. And I agree with you. I think it's the defense because we were really good last year, especially that last playoff game. We did not lose that game because of the defense at all. They were phenomenal. And then you just add more players to that unit. You re-sign the key guys, and then they've been really good with some of their free agent signings. So you think, we're going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, we're not playing good enough. We're just not. They're just not. I don't know what it is. Maybe was Joe Barry. Maybe he can explain what's going on. But
he has a lot of explaining to do.
Yeah.
But if you're a Wisconsin Badgers fan, you probably heard that Luke Fickell, or whatever his name is now the head coach of the Badgers, came from Cincinnati Bearcats. And Jim Leonard, he's available, people. And we offered him the job 2 years ago. He turned it down. But, maybe he'll stay and want to play with the Packers and be their defensive coordinator. But let's move on to the topic here about, is Lafleur and Rodgers on the same page? As we've seen a few times, not many, kind of Rodgers and Lafleur kind of going at it. And, there was the game where against the Cowboys where Rodgers was visibly upset by the play call. But I think the whole season, no one's on the same page. We talked about defense, offense here. But remember, we've had inconsistent play calling, offensive line injuries. We already talked about how Aaron Rodgers is a gladiator. Really no balanced running game. And that all adds up to a really bad season. And really losing magnifies all the smaller issues into larger issues. But let's remember history here, folks. I'm a big history guy. I know Andy likes history too. Remember, Rodgers is a back-to-back MVP under LaFleur. We've made it to the NFC Championship 2 out of the 4 years, and we have won 13 games 3 out of 4 years. This is not, obviously, like I said, our season. But, I just really think that you can't say they're on the same page or not, because really everything else is falling apart. It's not like you can go, oh, that's it. That's the one thing. That's the problem. No, it's multitude of things, which we've already talked about numerous times. But I believe this offseason will be the true test of Rodgers' relationship, not only with the Packers, but with LaFleur. And, remember, every relationship has its ups and downs. This is a down phase, but we only can get better. Andy, your thoughts, I think, are a little bit different than mine. So what's your
in
feeling
in some
and
ways, I would say
Rodgers?
yes, and some not. But basically, to focus on Lafleur and Rodgers, the two of
Yes.
them, I would
Yeah.
say that they're probably not as much on the same page in the passing game. Um, and there's a kind of a statistic out there lately that a lot of people have been mentioning with
Sure.
yesterday's loss. It's the 17th consecutive game without 300 passing yards for Aaron Rodgers. And in
Oh,
that same time
interesting.
span, Josh Allen's had 300 yards passing 8 times, Patrick Mahomes 9 times. So it's just kind
Wow.
of it's a little bit weird. You got somebody as talented as Rodgers. Now there's reasons for that, but even I think it's Davis Mills. He plays for the Houston Texans. He got benched, and he has three. The last game that Rodgers had
Mm,
that he threw for 300 yards was actually against our next week's opponent, which is the Bears, in Week
Of course, we'll talk
13
about
of the
them, obviously.
2021 season. So it's just kind of weird. And yes, John was talking about some of the things, some of the reasons why that might be with the passing game, at least. And I can go through those if you'd like, but
Well, just kind of give us a general feel of why, you
I
know.
mean, it's not all LaFleur's fault. At times,
No.
the pass protection's been an issue.
Yeah.
Wrong route
Inconsistent
running.
offensive line.
Yep, wrong route running a lot
Yep.
this year.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the second interception that Rodgers had, tight end Tyler Davis,
Oh,
backup tight end Tyler
yeah.
Davis, ran the wrong route. He was supposed to not go from left to right or right to left across the field. He was supposed to go up the field. So
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't
Yeah.
exactly where he was supposed to be.
Right.
So that was, again, not totally Rodgers' fault. So again, he has
No.
the fractured thumb. I did want to mention Brian Gutekunst is somewhat at fault as well.
Goody. Yes.
He's the 10th GM in Packers history, but he's not addressing
No. Yeah.
the
You don't have the
talent
talent.
on
Yep.
for tight end and for wide receiver, and that isn't Rodgers' fault either.
No, it isn't.
So I would say, though, as far as the scheme goes, I think they're somewhat on the same page. Rodgers is really smart. He knows that we have really good running backs. He knows we have to run to be able to set up the pass. And this is, again, part of LaFleur's DNA from his time as offensive coordinator with the Rams and the Titans. So
Yeah.
Rodgers is smart. He knows we already have the running backs. We have to set up the pass by running the ball first and being able to establish a run. So I would say that way they're meshing and they're on the same page that way. But I would also say overall that we've been struggling to find an identity on offense, and that has to do with, are we
Absolutely.
a run team or are we a pass team? Are
Yeah.
we a little bit of both? And
Mm.
from game to game, quarter to quarter, half to half, it's really hard to say what their identity is. I thought they found it again with the Dallas game,
Yeah, with
because they
Dallas.
did a great job of sticking with the run and just pounding them. And
Yep.
that really helped.
Balanced.
Right. Balance.
Balanced.
Exactly right. So,
Yeah.
but again, it's what's our identity? You've got
Yeah.
other teams in the National Football League that have an identity. You got like the Titans.
Yeah.
It's Derrick Henry. That's
It is
that's
Derrick Henry.
it is Derrick Henry. So
Yeah.
that's just one example. We need our own identity, though, and
Mm.
LaFleur needs to stick with whatever plan he's got for the team. And sometimes it's kind of hard for us to tell what that is.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're kind of on the same page of why things have kind of gone wrong, but we just think it's a multitude of issues. It's just not LaFleur and Rodgers. So we'll see what happens this, in the offseason and these last games. We do have 3 games still left at home with Detroit, Minnesota, and the Rams, who, we'll see. We'll cover in those games. So
Yep,
on to the
Stafford's hurt
game. Oh, right.
big time.
So on to game preview, Bears Packers. Yes, it's the toilet bowl game. 3-9 versus 4-8. The Bears still suck, but now we kind of suck, right, Andy? It's like wait a minute.
Yep.
What's going on here? Usually we roll into Chicago being like 10-2 or whatever, right? You
Yep.
know, maybe one
Feeling
or two
good.
losses.
Yep.
Yikes.
Yep.
And we might not have Rodgers starting. I think
Yep.
Rodgers will start because I think he wants to prove to people that he's invested, which he has nothing to prove about that. But okay. All I have to say about this game is we have to beat the Bears because back in the 80s, yes, I'm bringing up the 80s again. What did people say to you, Andy, about the Bears Packers game? We had to beat the Bears, right? We could lose.
Yeah, that was our Super Bowl.
That's our Super Bowl. That was you had to beat the Bears. You know, everybody knows about the 85 Bears and the Bears in the 80s. Yeah, you guys had 1 year, so like slow your roll, okay?
The Super Bowl shuffle.
Yeah. Anyway, Andy, that's all I really have to say about the game. Why don't you talk a little bit about the Bears defense and offense there?
Yeah. Well, you had mentioned that Rodgers may not be playing. Justin Fields may not be playing either. He has an issue with his non-throwing shoulder, his left shoulder. There's ligament damage. I'm not a doctor, but ligament damage.
I just play one on TV.
He has, I think it's an AC joint. I just wrote socket, but I think that's what it is. It's actually the joint. Yeah. He's having issues with that, and it was, I guess, partially dislocated, which created some of that damage. So he's very sore, and he really didn't want to run. They were running him anyway, even when he was hurt during that game. And they were still doing called runs for him. He just didn't want to run at that point because he was hurt. So we should. We should be all right. You got Trevor Siemian taking his place, so I would probably.
And the Bears defense stinks, according to you.
They do. They've given up 31 points to the Jets, to the Falcons. They gave up 27 points, and then to the Detroit Lions, they gave up 31. So their best player, safety Eddie Jackson, has a foot injury and likely is out. And then they traded away their best player on either side of the ball, which was inside linebacker Roquan Smith, who's now with the Baltimore Ravens. And I think we talked about him on a previous podcast, but yeah, he's no longer with them. And he was the best player that they had on either side of the ball. They didn't want to pay him though. So I'm sure Baltimore probably will cough up some money for him, but yeah, they didn't want to pay him. There's a reason.
So we will see. Hopefully we come with a victory Monday, games at noon. So, watch it.
Yep.
So Andy, end the show for us, and I will give my ending comments.
Yeah. So we're thinking hopefully a victory this week. I know that we are going to win. We're going to have a victory this week. The bye week cannot come soon enough, though. Packers management should have told the league to take it week 6 after the New York game. The New York Giants game, that's where Rodgers hurt his thumb. So I'm sure Rodgers' thumb would have appreciated the time off, but we picked week 14 instead of week 6, and they picked the wrong week. So, but thank you all very much for listening to Packers Blitz. And thanks for bringing an all-out blitz today, John.
You are welcome, Andy. I always love talking to you. Wish we could do more of these Victory Mondays, but that's okay because, yes, this season has been disappointing, but when you're down, the only way is up, and loyal Packer fans will stay true to their Packers. And what are the odds of us going back to the 80s? Right, Andy? Right?
Yeah, hopefully not good.
All right. Well, we love you, Packer fans. You're the greatest. We will talk to you next week, hopefully with Victory Monday. And all you Packer fans have a great week out there. See you, Andy.
See ya, John.
Hello to all my spooky friends out there. I have a new podcast called Dairyland Frights with my co-hosts, Megan and Brooke, where we're going to cover some of the spookiest and creepiest paranormal tales in the Midwest. We're going to thrill you. We're going to kill you. We can't kill you because we need an audience. But if you don't show up and listen to our new podcast, Dairyland Frights, you're chicken.